So the House of Windsor has been a hot mess for the past week. Now, of course, Harry and Meghan were unable to make it to the Well Child Awards after hearing about the news of the decline in health of the Queen. And even on her deathbed, the palace and the press just couldn't help but focus on finding ways to make it about Harry and Meghan, finding ways to be petty and cruel. It's just never ending. So, of course, when the news started to spread that the Queen's health was declining, and we found out that several members of her family was about to rush to her bedside, the palace started leaking right there and then. First, it was revealed that Harry and Meghan were heading there. Then people started to question, well, why is Meghan going with Harry and Kate not going with William? So the palace leaked that Kate is not going to go because she has to tend to the kids. Then that flipped and said, well, Meghan's not going to go. Harry's the only one that's going to go because Meghan doesn't want to go. And people started to, well, I should say trolls started to say, oh, well, Meghan's this and Meghan's that, as usual. Then the story flipped to Meghan wanted to go, but she couldn't go because she knew that she would be unwelcomed. Then it twisted to, well, she wanted to go, but she knew that she wouldn't be welcome. But more specifically, Prince Charles told Harry that she wouldn't be welcome there. I'm telling you, they have a very odd way of showing love and adoration for a mother, grandmother, and monarch that they always claim that they love so much. But I don't know about you guys. If my mom or grandmother or my monarch that I held to such a high esteem is having their last moments, I wouldn't be focusing on drama. But I guess that's not how they work. So the Queen ultimately dies. And do you think they're going to stop for a minute and just focus on her, celebrating her life, mourning the loss? Well, they do that, but there's still a whole lot of energy placed on focusing on Harry and Meghan. And this time around, it wasn't about Meghan and Balmoral. Oh no, they started to focus on when Harry got there and how he got there and why he wasn't in the jet with the whole other slew of the other members of the family. Then they focused on why did Harry leave so early in the morning? The palace leaking like a sieve. And what I've noticed also is that for whatever event they're talking about, there seems to be at least 3 or 4 different versions, different leaks, which leads me to believe that there's specific royal reporters who some leak for Kensington Palace, some leak for Buckingham Palace, some leak for Clarence House. So Harry gets back to London to meet Meghan, and soon we have the infamous walkout or walkabout in Windsor. And I don't think anyone expected that to happen. And so it was great to see Meghan and Harry and the other 2 royals. And the other 2 royals I used just as the CNN reporter did. He said Harry and Meghan and the other 2 royals. And of course, the royalists got very, very angry. How dare he? How dare you not properly address our future king and queen consort? The Daily Mail was in a tizzy, but we digress. So the walkabout went swimmingly. Of course, there was one little Karen in there who proceeded to make like funny little faces, and I don't know what she was trying to prove, other than she's just, I don't know, a bigoted Karen. So some people focused on that. And it's interesting to see this woman's face plastered all over global media, calling her out for what she is. But again, there's always going to be a Karen. I think, like, for all of us, regardless of who you are, the society that we live in these days, it's very likely that you're going to meet a Karen or two in your lifetime. You just can't escape it. But it didn't seem to affect Meghan. As far as I can see, and I've seen the video from different angles, it looked like she didn't even notice the lady. Because from what I can tell, Meghan and the rest, whenever they'll see a hand that's outstretched or flowers, then, they'll shake the hand. Hi, how you doing? Have a little bit of chit chat, take the flowers, and make sure that they're placed in the proper location. So again, and the people who were with this woman were happy to shake Meghan's hand and smile, and enjoy the moment. So all this lady proceeded to do was just make herself look horrible in the eyes of the globe. There have even been some articles that's written about it, and calling it out as, bigoted racism. So I guess mission accomplished for her. But we digress. So walkabout is completed. It went swimmingly. And of course the palace proceeded to leak again. Willie came in saying that it was his decision to invite his brother, out of the goodness of his heart. Then Team Charles came in and said, no, not so quick. Our new king was the one responsible for this reunion. But then soon, Team William decided to come in and say, oh, no, not so fast. It was us. I sent a text message. I spoke to Harry, and we figured this out on our own. So again, lots of leaking. They're not focused on the Queen's death. They're focused on PR opportunities, right? Keep in mind that while they're leaking against each other, Team Charles and Team William couldn't even wait until Charles made the official announcement of him becoming the new Prince of Wales to change his social media handles. Now, I know that they have a team to do that, and it's not William and Kate who are actually tending to the social media aspect of things, but I found it to be very crass. And in a lot of ways, I feel like this family focuses more on the aspect of the business of the monarchy and PR as opposed to feelings and warmth and emotion and family and love. How unfortunate is that? So while this is happening, Harry and Meghan are mourning and they've completely blacked out the Archwell website. Meanwhile, William and Kate's team decides to change the title. I don't know. That looks very odd to me, but I guess that's just how they do it. And again, the leaks continue to go on and on. Then, of course, we heard about the very petty and idiotic move by Charles for the uniform situation. Now, some said that it's up to the Queen and he's just respecting their wishes. But I think that's BS. And my assumption was true because soon enough there was an article released, and in it a military expert revealed the chain of command that's involved in ultimately making the decision, such as Harry's permission to wear the uniform or not. And at the end of the day, Charles is the monarch. Charles could have made the exception, but he chose not to. And what happened? Harry stood out amongst them all. And for a lot of people, he looked like he was the king. honestly, like when you look at the photo, you instantly look at Harry. He's tall, handsome, red hair, somber look. And Charles and the rest looks like his aging bodyguards. And one of the photos went viral. And I can't remember the exact word for the caption, but it's basically saying, oh, look, King Harry. Making light of the fact that Charles's petty and spiteful decision to not allow Harry to wear his uniform ended up working for the good of Harry. Now, personally, I don't think Harry cares about the uniform one way or another. Like he said in his statement released, whether he wears the uniform for the funeral or not, that doesn't take away from his 10 years of service. It doesn't take away from all the work that he's done with veterans over the years and continues to do. As far as I'm concerned, Harry, more than his father and brother, and even other, well, I shouldn't say other members of the family. Let me leave that aside for now. But Harry seems to just be focused on his grandmother, the loss of a woman he loved. Now, personally, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of the institution. I'm not a fan of the monarchy. I like Harry and Meghan, but that's about it. I have several reasons why I don't like the firm, the institution, and all that it represents. But I do like Harry and Meghan. I think they're ultimately very good people. Do I always agree with everything they do and say? No, but I adore them, and I think they mean well. And also they do really good work, very practical work that has been very helpful to the communities and the people that they seek to help. But to me, it really seems like Harry is focused not on the PR aspect, not on the uniforms and the fancy drapery and ceremony of it all. This is just a man who's thinking to himself, man, 25 years ago, I lost my mom. And now, around the same month, I've lost my grandmother. The other woman who has been the step in for a maternal figure after the loss of his mom. And just like with the ceremony for his mother, him and William had to walk behind the body of his grandmother. And you can tell how emotional he was. And Harry, unlike many in his family, doesn't shy away from being emotional. You've seen him give speeches time and time again where you can just see the emotion bubbling up at the surface. And I think that's why so many of us like him, even if we're not royalists. He's just authentic. And I adore that quality about him. Now, because so many on a global scale who have tuned in to the news and the ceremonies dealing with the death of Queen Elizabeth, so the eyes of the world are on the monarchy, the eyes of the world are on the UK and the UK press. And so many people have called out this petty decision by Charles for what it is. I mean, even Maria Shriver had a comment about it, saying that it's spiteful or something to that effect, and how his behavior, Charles's behavior to be more specific, isn't going to be helpful. This doesn't solve familial rifts. It just makes it worse. It widens the gap. And I agree with her. And I've seen lots of people who have served with Harry in the military over the years, and lots of people who have worked with him for military-type charity events and the Invictus Games, come to his defense. And so because of the public perception and how it was perceived in the response that they got. It said that Charles changed his mind and that Harry could wear the uniform for the service. And it's just... It reminded me of the comment that Meghan made, I believe on the first episode of Archetypes, where she talked about being in that institution when the fire happened with Archie's nursery. It's not about how you feel. Regardless of what's going on in your life, you're expected to just have it all together, or have the appearance of having it all together. For PR purposes, you show no weakness. You carry on with a smile on your face. And I understand that to a certain degree. But I think that's a part of the problem for the monarchy, is that it comes off as so stiff. You can't relate to them because, well, their lifestyle is completely different to the average man. But the way that they communicate with others, it's just sort of standoffish. And now we see some people trying to do the things like with Meghan got the hug from the 14-year-old girl, and that went viral around the globe. And I love the encouraging words the young lady said about Meghan, and calling out the press and how badly she's treated, and hoping to express to Meghan in that hug that she is welcome there. And of course, we see Sophie, the Countess of Wessex, trying to imitate that and taking all the flowers and holding it, as opposed to giving it to the people for them to put it down, giving it to the aides and courtiers. She's basically trying to mimic what Meghan did. And that's the problem with them. It's just all about PR. It doesn't come from the heart, and it reads that way. It's inauthentic. So now, the palace leaked yet again that there's going to be a dinner or a reception for world leaders. I believe it's the day before the funeral. And they leaked that Harry and Meghan were magnanimously invited because, they're so lucky they got an invitation. They should be happy. Then it was leaked that they weren't invited. And even some in the UK press suffering from the whiplash. They're like, wait, what is it? The situation with the uniform and now the situation with this dinner. Flip-flop, what's going on here? Now, to me, I feel like Harry and Meghan doesn't really want this little hand-me-down invitation. I think they just want to focus on mourning the loss of Harry's grandmother and then going home to their kids. And the fact that the kids aren't in England is very telling to me. But I'm not going to go into it. But I think it's very interesting that they decided to leave the kids home instead of bringing them over there and subjecting them to the insanity within the institution and that family. So I think that Harry and Meghan said, you know what, no thank you. And of course, they're not going to report that they declined the invitation. Never that. So one of the palaces decided to spin it and say that, oh no, they extended an invitation, but then we decided against it. So like I said earlier, there always seems to be 2 or 3 different versions of the leaks, right? Because they're coming from different places. Kensington Palace, Team William, and then, Clarence House, I believe Charles already fired like 100 people from Clarence House. Charles is ruthless. So let's say Clarence House is now Buckingham Palace, so that's Team Charles. And then, of course, there's the Montecito crew, And we know they don't really interact too much with the palace aides and courtiers because those vipers cannot be trusted. So there's a lot of different teams and different people doing different things for PR effect. And notice that Harry and Meghan doesn't really say much about what they're doing, you know? When they made the big hubbub about the uniform, he put out a simple statement saying, let's just focus on my grandma. The uniform doesn't matter to me. And that was that. But through it all, William and Charles's team has been leaking like a sieve. And if it's one thing that this week and all of the nonsense and noise that has come with it proves, is that Harry and Meghan were so right to walk away when they did. Remember, they tried to offer them half in, half out, and they said no. It's either you're all in or you're all out. And they said they're all out, baby. And so they have been. I don't doubt that they're ready for this funeral to be over so they can head home to their kids in some peace of mind. It reminds me of those family dinners or events that you have to go to, and you begrudgingly show up because you know it's about to be some drama, it's about to be some mess. It's going to be some very unpleasant family members that you're going to have to deal with. But you suck it up and you do it. And you grind your teeth. And you count the hours of the days until you can make your great escape back to your home. Back to peace and solace. And I think that's what we have here. Harry and Meghan focusing on mourning the loss of a grandmother. Meanwhile, the press, who always waxes on poetically about how wonderful Her Majesty is, the Queen is so fabulous, and all the other royalists on social media, oh, Harry and Meghan are making her life a living nightmare. And then, of course, the family members in the firm, this is their fearless liege, and she's gone. And each of these three sectors, the press, the royalist fans, the family, and the firm, am I the only one who's thinking that their response to her death is lackluster? Because if I'm really emotionally distraught about the loss of someone that I have loved and lost, I'm not going to have the energy or the desire to be nitpicking nonsense about somebody else. I'm not going to have the energy to have my employees focusing on leaking nonsense about Harry and Meghan. These royalists, instead of focusing on Your Majesty, you're throwing a hissy fit over the fact that they held hands in a church, even though they're not the only ones who were holding hands. They threw a hissy fit that Harry opened and closed the car door for Meghan when they were leaving the walkabout. Mind you, if William had done it, they would have been like singing his praises. He's such a great husband and a wonderful king to be. But Harry does it for Meghan, and it's, oh my God. Harry needs to open the car door for Meghan because she's not an independent woman. I'm an independent woman. I don't need my man to open the car door for me. Oh, shut up. Shut up. He's a gentleman that does something nice for his wife. My dad does the same for my mom. They've been married, good Lord, decades now. You know, it's a healthy relationship. Some couples are like that. But instead of mourning the loss of the person you say, or the figurehead that you say you love so much, you're over here stressing about Harry and Meghan, who you say you hate. Instead of William and Charles focusing on their PR moves for this week, or this week and the next week, to be solely focused on either celebrating the life of the Queen or mourning her loss. You're engaged in petty PR BS. A whole lot of leaking that just makes them look extremely petty and unprofessional. Like earlier today, I was on Twitter and I asked under Royal Suitor, I'm like, are all the European royal families like this? Because I feel like the British royal family is synonymous with scandals and corruption and pettiness. Just things that are not that great, you know? But I'm not a royal watcher, so I don't know about all the European royal families. So if you know, feel free to let me know in the comment section. But are they all this messy? Because I feel like the British royal family to me is synonymous with scandal, corruption, and just a hot mess. A hot mess. Now, before I leave you guys, what do you guys think of King Charles so far? So far, I'm not impressed. On the first day, he did that little weird hissy fit about the ink pot. And I kind of gave it a little side eye, but then I was like, you know what? He's grieving, he's tired. And that table was really small and uncomfortable. I don't know why they would have all of these things and the big old paper on such a small table, but whatever. He was a little irritated. All right. Then he threw a hissy fit over a pen, the fountain pen leaking. Like, dude, you're a king. Get a ballpoint. You know, get a better pen. Or even if you're annoyed at it, the way he went on and on about it and then just like left the room, it's just so extra. While Camilla was like, yeah, you know, it's leaking, but she kind of just went on with it, signed whatever she needed to sign, and move along. While he had his little hissy fit. And now some people were like, well, you know, guys, you need to understand that he just lost his mom. He's going through some things, and I sympathize. Truly, I do. But there have been lots of people who have lost parents, and they somehow manage to be kind to others, not so obnoxious about it. And let's not forget, most importantly, that Charles has a long history of being exactly what he portrayed himself to be during that hissy fit. And older videos of former staff members talking about Charles and his horrible attitude towards the staff of the palace started resurfacing. And I love that for him. So that just proves that it's not about grief. He's just a jerk to staff members. Did we open up an investigation into that? No. But we did have time to open up an investigation into Meghan and those 5 a.m. emails. Major side eye. And not just that. So hissy fit over the ink pot, hissy fit over the pen, then the petty move with the uniform for Harry, but then Harry ended up looking like he's the king and Charles and the rest just sort of like melted or mixed into the background, and it made him look petty and people called him out on it. So then he changed his mind, right? So flip flop, all about what it looks like instead of just being a decent human being and say, you know what, my mom just died, your grandmother, put on your uniform and let's just put the family drama aside and show up as a united front and do this thing. But no, he had enough time and energy to be petty. Then, on top of that, he expects world leaders to take a bus? I'm sorry, what, Mr. Environment? Now, a lot of people talk about Charles's work for the environment, and that's all well. And yes, I do recall, if I were to think of old white dudes constantly talking about the environment, it would be Prince Charles and, of course, Al Gore and Leonardo DiCaprio. And I know that Prince Charles had been sort of teased for years about his environmental speeches. Let us not forget that the royal family has flown enough miles to fly from the moon and back. So while you're waxing on poetically about the environment and expecting world leaders to take buses and be environmentally conscious, you have the crown being driven in a whole separate car by itself. You have you and other members of your family who are going about doing different events because of the death of the Queen, all taking private jets and private planes, even for the shortest of trips. That's not a good look. Not a good look at all. Then again, this entire situation today about the invitation to the meeting with world leaders being extended to Harry and Meghan, and then, oh no, we disinvited them, flip-flop. It's a hot mess. It's unprofessional. And this is an institution that's been around for hundreds of years. It's supposed to represent the best that the UK has to offer the king, right? The cream of the crop. But y'all are just unprofessional and messy. I'm sorry. It's a hot mess. I foresee that his reign is going to be a bumpy one. Well, we all know it's not going to be as long as his mother. But if the booing of Charles and Camilla today as they approached, I believe it's Cardiff Castle, is an indication of things to come, it's going to be an interesting show. And I just hope that Harry and Meghan will be watching it with the rest of us, safe and sound in Montecito. You know? It's a mess. And look at the way they had protesters being arrested. One for heckling Andrew. And you know, the interesting thing is the cops arrested this man. But then there are royalists in the crowd who were quick to try to shut him up by screaming, "God save the king." And I find it interesting that so many royalists will bend over backwards to make excuses for Andrew, show support for Andrew, and want to tear Meghan to shreds for holding her husband's hand. And then turn around and tell me that it's not racially motivated. Girl, bye. Now I can go on, but I'm not going to keep you guys much longer. Maybe we'll have another chat after the funeral. But for me, in my household, I'm just praying that things go smoothly for the next few days, and that Harry and Meghan can do the funeral on Monday and then get on the first plane back, get home to their kids, and give the UK a break. You know, I don't even want them to go to the coronation, because Charles, regardless of his statement saying how much he loves Harry and Meghan and supports them, you know, building their life overseas, as far as I'm concerned, that's a bunch of BS, because his words and his actions don't add up. And when it comes to Harry and Meghan, it never does. And I don't foresee this changing. He is a petty, egotistical little man. And I don't see that changing. People don't change. He's in his 70s. That's how he is. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, hit that notification bell.